Hi, welcome back. It's That Political Dude. It's time That Political Dude wage war against the meta regime. I'll explain my rationale behind this, and I'll talk about the Rohingya genocide, which many of you might know about, but this time there's another side of the story that doesn't get talked a lot about. I think this story is important as it is a warning about the potentials of media manipulation, and this story is a precursor and foretelling of the intelligence war that grows more and more relevant nowadays. So, the Rohingyans are a Southeast Asian Muslim minority group living in their native homeland of the Rakhine State in western Myanmar bordering Bangladesh. The origins of the people are unclear, however, it is that the place known as Arakan or Rakhine, where these people reside, became a part of the Burmese Empire after the land was conquered in the 1700s. Then it went through British rule and became a part of Myanmar when the country gained independence from Britain in 1948. The Burmese never recognized the Rohingyans. They belittled them and called them Bengali, suggesting that these people should go back to adjacent Bangladesh. Subsequently, the treatment of these people by the Burmese worsened as the military junta took over the country. These Rohingyans had their citizenship revoked, making them stateless, and they were often discriminated against. It is controversial to say, but the decades of anti-Rohingyan propaganda made racism towards Rohingyan people become ingrained as like a facet and collective conscience of the Burmese society. Fast forward a few decades and it is time to talk about Facebook in Myanmar. Facebook entered Myanmar in the early 2010s. Back then, Myanmar was still a very poor country and the access to internet was virtually non-existent. In 2013, only around 10% of the population of Myanmar owned a mobile phone, and that number ballooned to almost 90% in 2016. Whilst there was unprecedented growth, there was also unprecedented market opportunity for Facebook. The social network soon became the largest source of information of the citizens of Myanmar. What made this disastrous was the fact that at the time there was only 2 Facebook moderators in the whole of Myanmar, when there were millions of citizens who look at the news feeds of Facebook in Myanmar as like gospel. Buddhist nationalists and Buddhist extremists were suddenly given a platform where they can spread their hatred and their extreme ideas with no checks and balances, and most importantly, no repercussions. One man was eager to capitalize on this opportunity, and this man is Ashin Wiratu, who is also known as the Buddhist Bin Laden. He spreads propaganda, alleges that the Rohingyans are building an Islamist caliphate in Myanmar and that they kidnap Burmese children and women, and that the Buddhists have to defend their land and their culture, and of course, evidently, none of this is true. But with the Facebook algorithm promoting the most popular content and the more controversial something is, the more it gets viewed, people in Myanmar started being dragged down the rabbit hole and echo chamber. Suddenly, Wiratu gained a loyal supporter base, and the 969 movement, which is a Buddho-fascist movement propagating the myth that the Rohingyans want an Islamic caliphate, gained momentum. The divide became extreme as Burmese civilians joined the junta and army, and they burnt houses of the Rohingyans and brutally murdered them. In 2017, 24,000 Rohingya Muslims were killed by the Burmese military as Burmese civilians burned their villages with help from the military. And as the crisis continued to get worse, with the death toll progressively increasing, many displaced Rohingyans live in the Kutupalong refugee camp in nearby Bangladesh to escape from the violence in Myanmar. But they are still faced with discrimination from the Bangladeshis, and the living condition in the refugee camp is poor, and many children are malnourished as well. Their plight has been overshadowed by legacy events such as the war in Ukraine, the Israel-Hamas war, the leveling of Gaza, and many more plights. Whilst there is no doubt that anti-Rohingya bias and discrimination in Myanmar had existed for decades, it is still shocking that Facebook could have so much control over the worldview and the thoughts of the Burmese people, who are being indoctrinated at an astonishing level. Whilst Facebook did make reform over its Burmese section in the recent years, such as banning Ashin Wiratu from the network, The event demonstrated the seriousness and severity of media manipulation and false information, where just a few dedicated individuals and non-state actors can create such a huge impact on the views of millions of people. This gives out the creeps of indoctrination in the Third Reich and the Soviet Union, and this is just a peek of what is to come. And if we don't bring these type of issues to awareness, then Orwell's 1984 is bound to happen. Subscribe, stay alert, and I'll catch you in the next one.